Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Double Play Podcast. I'm Jack Smith, joined today by my stupendous co-host, Ryan Donahue, in person for the first time since the launch of the podcast. Dude, I'm so excited.
It's very exciting. We've got our nice setup here. It's exciting. I think episodes are going to go way better, smooth, with our in-person conversations. So happy to be here. Got our little studio set up. So it's exciting.
Yeah, you can forgive the middle garage door background. There will be a flag there when it ships in about a week. We're excited about that one. But yeah, I'm super excited. We're going to have so many things planned for the summer. We're both off school for now. Aside from when we are not in town at the same time, every episode is going to be filmed in here. And we got a lot of other stuff planned. Funny TikToks we can do. There's a park just right over there. We're going to try and get to some baseball games this summer, bring you guys some content. But we're just pumped.
Yep. It's going to be a good time, and we're looking forward to it.
So the first thing that we're going to talk about after that little welcome back, Reid Detmers just threw a no-hitter just a couple days ago against the Tampa Bay Rays. I'll let you start.
Yeah, first solo no-hitter of the season, and 11th start of his career. So, I mean, it's impressive to see a rookie do that early into his career. And we knew he'd kind of be good, and we didn't know how good, but he was my pick, or he was my dark horse pick to win AL Rookie of the Year. And he's kind of struggled so far with the exception of this start. But it was a great start nonetheless. 1 walk, 1 error, only 2 strikeouts, but he was efficient. 108 pitches, and it was the 12th no-hitter in Angels history. And do you think this will kind of spark lots of no-hitters like we saw last season?
Well, yeah. So it's kind of hard to tell. We've seen less complete games and less pitchers going through the 9th inning because when strikeouts ramp up, the pitch count just gets a little bit too high. But you're right, last year we got 1 and then seems like we got 5 in the same week. So I wouldn't be surprised. That being said, it's hard to predict no-hitters. This is the first Angels one though since the group one they did on Tyler Skaggs' day last year or 2 years ago. And this is the first solo one of the year. We had the Mets throw a complete bullpen no-hitter the other day, which I know has riled fans up a little bit. But it was great to see a pure 108 pitcher going 9 innings, no-hitter. And to do it against the Rays too, who I feel like would be the perfect team to break up a no-hitter, that's pretty impressive to me.
Yeah, I think we will see an increase in no-hitters. Maybe not to the extent that we saw last season, but I think we've seen a few no-hit bids already. We saw Justin Verlander on the same day. I think he had 8. Nestor Cortez was 7 the other day. And I really think it's an aspect of that short spring training. I think guys are kind of starting to get the groove back, and especially with the dead end baseballs, which we have yet to talk about, but I'm sure we will soon. I think no-hitters are going to be easier to come by, and I mean, no-hitters are never easy, but easier than past years they've been. And I think coming soon in a few weeks as pitchers gain their footing back into the season, I think we'll see an increase of no-hitters, or at least no-hit bids.
I mean, yeah, we had Justin Verlander and Nestor Cortez. The problem with me is you got to get into the 9th inning, and these pitch counts just get so high, even starting in like the 6th inning, that it's going to take a really good performance. But if Reid Detmers can do it, I would believe someone like a Corbin Burns, Justin Verlander, and all those top pitchers
Didn't even
can
mention
do it.
the Kershaw perfecto bid in the 7th that he got pulled.
That's true, but that was Dave Roberts' fault, not really Kershaw's fault. But yeah, we've been close a lot, so I wouldn't be surprised to see if we get 1 or 2 more. But I feel like last year was kind of an anomaly with how many we got. But let's talk more about that Angels game, because not only was it a no-hitter, it was a complete blowout by the Angels against the Rays, and we saw some wild stuff. One of our favorite things that happened earlier in the year is Brett Phillips came into pitch, didn't do all too well, but had that awesome defensive play. They brought him back in. He did not help his ERA out all that much. He first gives up a home run to Trout and then Anthony Rendon, and that might sound normal until I tell you that it was Anthony Rendon's first at-bat as a left-handed hitter in his MLB career, and he put one out. With his shin guard on his back leg, he still managed to whack one out to right.
Yeah, and it was so funny. I mean, Brett Phillips is always going to be entertaining. And I think the funniest part of that was the aftermath. Brett Phillips tweeting, "Trout, you got lucky." That was the funniest thing. And then after the Rays tweeted something, I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but it was something like, "Angels fans are so lucky to experience a two-way player playing." And then they responded with a thread that said, "This tweet is about Brett Phillips, not about Ohtani." And then the next day when Ohtani faced Brett Phillips the other way, because Brett Phillips also pitched to Ohtani the night before. That was funny to see as well. But yeah, Brett Phillips wasn't a good performance from him again. He's just not a pitcher.
At least he brings the energy every time he goes out
does.
there. That's what you want
It's
out of
funny
the pen.
that like when he gave up the bomb to Trout, he went to a knee like he just gave the walk up bomb like we saw when he was pitching it against the A's. He cares about it. He's just kind of grooving in BP fastballs for him.
Yeah, we'll see if they bring him in a high leverage situation. I'm not sure if he's earned
I don't
that
think so.
quite yet. But
Future closer.
yeah, exactly. Let's talk about the Angels though, because that was the next thing we're going to talk about. I guess it's kind of coincidence they throw a no-hitter, but they've been maybe the hottest team in the league recently. They've had an incredible past couple of weeks since the last time we brought you guys an episode, and we figured we kind of have to talk to you guys about it. They're 21-12, which is first place in the AL West, and they have scored the most runs in the league by 5 coming into today. I'll give you points if you can guess 2, 3, and 4.
Oh wow, 2, 3, 4. I don't even know. I'm trying to think of games that have been blowouts.
I'll give you number 4. It's your Dodgers.
Is it? Okay.
Yep.
I wasn't sure if they were going to be up there. Number 2, is it the Cubs?
Nope.
Because they had that 21 run performance.
Yeah, I don't
against the
think they've
Pirates.
had very many other good
No,
performances.
they've had a lot of low scoring games, but I don't know who is it?
Both National League.
Both National League. I'm not going to get it. Who
No,
is it?
it's 1 Angels, 2 Brewers, 3 Giants, 4 Dodgers.
Okay.
Which is funny because like the two offenses, everyone was like, oh, kind of think they might take a step back, including myself. I was like, I don't know if the Brewers can really put up runs. They're second in the league right now. I'm kind of eating my words, and I wouldn't have guessed that the Giants have put up more runs than the Dodgers.
Yeah, the Dodgers have had a lot of low scoring games so far, but I'm not too surprised. They've had a couple of outbursts. They haven't put it all together, so I'm excited for the Dodgers if they can put it all together. But back to the Angels, the kind of the recipe behind the success has just been their stars. Ohtani's been great. Trout's been the same. Mike Trout, he's as good as ever. The MLB released who's in the lead for MVP. Trout's number 1 for the AL. 1.188 OPS so far with a 2.6 WAR, and he's just tearing it up. And of course, Taylor Ward, as we all expected, would be the star for this Angels team, who has a 1.9 WAR, 244 WRC plus, and a 502 weighted on base average in 22 games. So yeah, I mean Taylor Ward, we know he'd be a star, right?
Yeah, I mean everyone talked about Trout and Ohtani, but I was always on that Taylor Ward train. Never once mentioned Joe Adell, who he's promptly sent down to AAA with how well he's been playing. But yeah, Taylor Ward, a 502 WOBA, having 1.9 WAR through 22 games when you're Taylor Ward, I would say that'd really help out the Angels. But you mentioned Shohei, and it's interesting because I think that like this season he has been better on the mound than he has been at the plate. I feel like the last season you would have argued the other way, but so far he's still been good at the plate. 6 home runs. He still has a 126 WRC plus, 0.6 WAR at the plate, but on the mound he's been fantastic. A 2.78 ERA, a 2.11 FIP, and 12.8 strikeouts per 9 innings, and that kind of was marked by a huge performance in his debut in Fenway Park. 7 innings, 6 hits, no walks, and 11 strikeouts of pure dominance. He had a negative FIP in that game.
I kind of knew Shohei could do this on the mound. I mean, we've seen him pitch. He throws close to 100, if not touching 100. He's got the nasty stuff on the mound. So
that splitter is just unhittable.
We kind of knew that Shohei was capable of this on the mound, and we know what he can do at the plate. We saw that last season. But we kind of thought if he could put this together, I mean, he could put up even more insane season than last season. I think I had him as the dark horse to potentially win the Cy Young. And, I mean, there's been some great pitching across Major League, but Shohei's been great as well.
Yeah, and there's other guys that are contributing on the Angels. Of course, we mentioned Rendon. He's been hit or miss, but he's come up clutch in a couple moments. One thing we made a TikTok about was this huge walk-off they had the other day where they were down, I think it was 2 outs, they were down by 2, runners on first and third, and Shohei's up. He hits a ball off the wall, both runs come around to score, he's into second, and we see some emotion out of him, which is we don't really see out of him unless he like strikes out some guy to end an inning. And then Rendon comes through with a single to center, but it's shallow, and Shohei with his speed comes all the way around to score and lets out like the biggest yell. It was the coolest thing. That lineup can just be so dangerous when you have to face Trout, Ohtani, and then Rendon. And we saw it in another game too, where it was bases loaded. The guy it was either his debut or he's brand new to the majors, had to face Trout with the bases loaded and kind of got around it, then had to face Ohtani, who took him deep for a grand slam.
And I think that's what's different about this Angels team. that have not seen years past. Obviously, the pitching's shown up, but I think the biggest thing is the energy with this team. The crowd has shown up for the Angels, which, I mean, the Dodgers have kind of dominated the LA area recently, but the Angels crowd has shown up this season. And I think it's the energy with the team as well. You mentioned Shohei showing emotion. I think that's the biggest thing. And, I mean, they've got the cowboy hat now, home run celebration. So I think the chemistry is kind of coming together, and they're showing energy, and I think that's what's helping them win games so far.
Yeah, huge shout outs also to Jared Walsh, who really came on strong. He put up the most fantasy points on my lineup last week. I was pretty excited. He's got 6 home runs. It feels like all of them came last week. Syndergaard has been effective. Brandon Marsh has been really good. Raisel Iglesias has been just as good as he was last year. So a huge shout out to this Angels lineup. They're doing what what we thought they couldn't do, but I didn't really see them putting together this full, coherent performance up to this point. I think we were either going to get the hitting or get the pitching. Didn't really feel like we'd get them on the same day, and they've absolutely been doing that. Patrick Sandoval too, just to name another guy.
Yeah, we kind of thought that the Angels could be a playoff team, or at least in playoff contention, but we didn't think they'd be leading the AL West this far, and it kind of posed the question, Jack, do you think the Angels can win the AL West?
I absolutely do. That being said, the Astros are the Astros, and we haven't really seen them miss a beat. Right now, they trail the Angels in the standings, but it's still close. And we've seen them be competitive against the Angels so far this year. It's definitely possible. I'd really root for it. I think the Angels winning the AL West would be so good for baseball, just as long as they make the playoffs. Getting them in that conversation. To be the AL West winners would be huge. Right now, the Astros sit at 19-11, only a couple games behind the Angels. We've seen some of the other teams in that AL West really fall off, like the Mariners are at 14-18. So my guess is it'll be between the Angels and the Astros. If I had to make a prediction now, yeah, I'm gonna lean the Anaheim.
I'm still going to be with the Astros on this one. I mean, they've been hot. I don't want to, trust me. If anyone doesn't want to root for the Astros, it's me. But I'm still leaning towards the Astros just because their experience so far, and they've been heating up. Their pitching's coming together. Justin Verlander seems like he's back to his old self. So I think the Angels, if I had to pick right now, I think they're a playoff team, a wild card team, especially with the expanded playoffs. But I still got the Astros to win the AL West.
Interesting. I mean, I can't hate it. The Astros are who they are. We've seen them do it year in, year out. We didn't mention my hat.
Oh, yeah. You want to talk about the hat?
Yeah, so in case any of you guys don't follow the Giants or me, this is a Brandon Belt jersey. He's my favorite player. He's the captain. I figured, we need a captain of the podcast. I thought that we needed like a leadership role, so I'm putting that C on my chest. Got to wear the captain's hat. And I probably won't make an appearance in every episode, but whenever I feel like we need a strong leader, I guess I'm the captain.
Yeah,
so I pull out the
just like Brandon Belt, just naming yourself the captain. Yep. Everyone's like, all right, I guess.
Well, and then I think next year when we pull out episode 1 of the new season, I might come in like on a boat. I think I'd throw out the first pitch of the season.
Okay, yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, and I'll take you deep.
Nah, I don't think so. Let's switch gears a little bit. The Angels have been great. You know who hasn't been great? It's the Red Sox.
Yep. They've been kind of disappointing so far, and I picked them as a playoff team. Not sure where that stands now. I think we're going to talk about that a little bit towards the end. But they just have not been good. They're at last in the AL East, below the Orioles at 11-20. And they've just had poor performances all year. It's been kind of been the pitching a little bit. And, I mean, they haven't won a series this season, which is... Who would have guessed that the Red Sox would be in this position? I mean, they've got all their weapons. They've got, obviously, Bogarts, obviously Devers, JD Martinez... Verdugo. I mean, they've got a lot of weapons, and I mean, Chris Sale's been hurt, which has hurt their pitching. But I mean, they just aren't showing up on any facet of the game right now, and they're really just struggling to win baseball games right now.
You're right. They do have all those weapons, and a lot of those guys are putting out seasons that I think we would expect. I think we would expect from Devers and Xander maybe a little higher than like an 850 OPS, but that's still a productive bats in the middle of your lineup that you'd expect to at least win a series so far. And there's a couple culprits that I'll come down to. They've scored the fourth least most runs in the league. So they've got numeric production from some of their stars, but they just really have not been able to put runs on the board, which I think will balance out over time. But the other thing is the bullpen. They have the most blown saves in the league, and their leader in saves, the team leader, has one save.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is, I mean, Xander Bogaerts has been one of the best offensive shortstops in the league thus far, but I think the biggest thing is their big shortstop acquisition in the offseason, which was Trevor Story, and he has not been good for them thus far. Maybe it's adjusting to the rough Fenway crowd. I mean, they're a great crowd, don't get me wrong, when they're playing well, but they can be tough as well, and he's learning second base. But he only has one home run this season, and that came yesterday. We're recording this, what's today, Thursday? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he got his first home run yesterday, and he's just been struggling thus far at the plate, and he's hitting 206 with a 268 weighted on base average at 73 WRC plus, and it's been rough for Trevor Story. Number of things you can blame it on. Maybe it's learning a new position, maybe it's the crowd, but bottom line is he just hasn't been there for them.
Yeah, and 73 WRC plus is better than Whit Merrifield. We found out the other day has a 0 WRC plus, bottom in the league. That's just, how is that even possible?
He did have a good day yesterday though, so maybe it's like at a 3 right now.
Very true. And I think it's interesting that we can bring in some of those other free agent shortstops because all of them, I would say, as a whole so far, have been disappointing. Semien is, I think, the worst of the bunch compared to Story because he still doesn't have a home run. It was normally everyone talks about Story and Semien, neither of them have home runs. And Story's one ahead now.
Yeah, and I mean, Semien, he was up third in the MVP voting in the AL last year, and he was up there for home run leader. I don't remember how much he finished off, but he's hitting 171, 40 WRC plus, and I mean, his teammate in Texas, Corey Seager, who we mentioned Semien as probably the worst of the bunch so far. Seager's probably the best of the bunch so far, and it's still not great. It's above average in terms of the rest of the league, but not what we've seen Seager do. He's hitting 243 with 6 home runs. He's gotten hot a little bit recently. He had a bomb the other day. He had a 2 home run game the other day. He has a 116 WRC plus, and then the other 2 big names were Javi Baez and Carlos Correa. Javi Baez is hitting 224. So I mean, Javi Baez isn't known for his high batting average, but he only has 2 home runs. He's kind of known for that pop and explosive bat with an 84 WRC plus. And Carlos Correa, who was heating up before he got hurt a little bit, he's only hitting 255 with 2 home runs and 110 WRC plus. And this kind of, maybe it's for the whole people or whole group here. They all got paydays, and maybe they're just having trouble living up to their contracts. So we'll see if they settle in. Maybe it's like a Lindor situation where he struggled last season. Maybe they'll start to figure it out and then heat up down the line.
Yeah, I definitely think they will. The problem right now is the contract thing. It's like you're paying them a lot of money. And I know like Baez got less than the whole group, but the rest of them, like huge contracts. And even if they're playing okay, like as long as they're above league average, it's just not enough when you consider how much you're paying them. So that's kind of the main thing to think about. But Story has really kind of plagued this Red Sox offense, especially for the money they're giving him. And you mentioned the Fenway crowd, like all of Boston hates Trevor Story right now. And that's kind of you're right. That is a tough thing. When you're coming from Colorado, where you're kind of always the darling player to fans, everyone loves you, especially then Arenado gets traded and you're the only thing the fans have to hold on to now in Boston where everyone kind of hates you. It's pretty tough.
Yeah, and the future for the Red Sox team as a whole is kind of in question right now, and we could see them turn it around if Trevor Story starts to heat up the rest of the lineup. The pitching can be what we know it can be. They're relatively young. If Chris Sale comes back, they can still compete for a playoff spot, but it kind of asks the question, can they bounce back, or will they kind of fizzle out and crumble this season?
So yeah, I think that they're much better than this. The peripherals around them are very confusing, but then again, they're having good offensive production when you look at like the single layers, except for Trevor Story, who also I think will bounce back a little bit. But the fact that they've only scored the 4th most runs in the league with the kind of numbers that they do have at the top of their lineup, I don't think that's very sustainable. I think they'll start to get under the ball a little bit more, start putting more home runs out at Fenway, at other places. I think they're going to middle out a little bit in runs scored because they do have single and individual offensive production. Eventually that's going to come together. I mean, right now they're playing like a team like the 2020 Mets, who had one of the higher team WRC pluses in baseball, but scored not that many runs. And I think that's kind of what the Red Sox are going to be. They're going to come back, and I think they're going to score more runs over an 162-game season. They'll eventually get Chris Sale back. I think the bullpen will tighten up a little bit. They've got to use Garrett Whitlock as a closer. They've got to have some guy who can go in there and get saves. They cannot keep blowing as many as they have. And I think that you're going to see a little bit of a regression to the mean that we normally see over a 162 game season. I'm not going to go as far as to say they're this year's Braves who struggled out of the gate and then went on to win the World Series. But do I think they can get back in that conversation for the playoffs? Absolutely. Do I think that they can beat out the Orioles and not come in last in the AL East? I would bet an obscene amount of money on that.
If the season were to not if the season were to end today, but if you were to ask me a prediction for the playoffs, I still think the Red Sox will compete for a playoff spot. I can't guarantee that they will get one, but I think they'll bounce back. But if they don't, it's very interesting for this team because do they become sellers at the deadline? They've got a lot of free agents coming. Bogarts, we've seen contract extensions kind of not going anywhere, and hearing some rumors he might be out. JD might be he is a free agent. They might trade him. Kike is a free agent. Even Rafael Devers, who we've seen extension talks kind of the same as Devers or as Bogarts so far. He's got one more year of team control, but then he's a free agent. So it'll be very interesting if this team might become sellers at the deadline, kind of similar to where we saw the Cubs, because when the Cubs became sellers last year at the deadline, they were still in contention for a playoff spot, but you kind of saw they had Baez, Rizzo, and Bryant free agents, so they're like, all right, we're not going to go all in for a maybe wild card spot because they didn't like their chances to win it all. So they wanted to get something back from their stars. So we could see a similar situation for the Red Sox. And I don't know if that would leave Trevor Story because, they just paid him, like I said. So I know they're trying to pay Devers and Bogarts, but they're not really engaging in talks with them. So it'll be very interesting if they turn into a fire sale team. That would be insane for the market, and it could be one of the better trade deadlines this season.
Yeah, it would be. You're right. It would be insane for the market that the Jeff Passan would be just going off, and we'd be hearing probably all about, Kike could be on the move, Bogarts could be on the move, JD I think would absolutely be on the move. Devers I'm not quite sure about. I think him and Story would probably be the two guys they keep around, but do they look to move someone like Alex Verdugo? Do they move a Nathan Eovaldi, which I think would be huge? I think it's definitely a possibility. If they don't turn it around, could definitely see it. They're going to have to move some of them. I think Bogarts and JD would be solid locks if they don't turn this around and don't see a way to make the playoffs, that they would trade them. And then it's interesting with those two guys and maybe others to think about where they could possibly go. And the name that I was kind of sticking on the other day was Bogarts to the Brewers. He's not good enough defensively to play short. You could trade for him, put him at second. You've got Adames at short and Bogarts at second. They need, I think, if they can add one more big piece in that lineup. I know they've scored the second most runs, but adding that piece could be huge, and you wouldn't have to give up all that much. And they have the money, I think, to extend him long term if they do.
I think there's a lot of teams that could use Xander Bogarts, a lot of contenders, because we see teams like the Cardinals, Braves, who have Dansby Swanson becoming a free agent this year, so if the Braves want to pay him, the Yankees and the Angels, these are all contending teams that could really use that bat in their lineup. And I think Bogarts, we've seen, like I mentioned, he's been one of the top offensive shortstops this season. So I really think a lot of contenders could be in the market for him if they do sell. And I think that would be very interesting to see. The Brewers, maybe. I think it could happen for sure. But I think a lot of these teams could use him maybe at shortstop rather than a positional move.
If the Yankees weren't the Red Sox biggest rivals in the entire world,
I didn't think about that aspect. Correct.
I would say
he's not going to the Yankees.
I would say that is absolutely perfect. They missed out on every free agent shortstop this offseason, but if they could land Xander Bogarts and then extend him, that would be dream for the Yankees if he wasn't coming from Boston.
No.
That would be.
And maybe if he becomes a free agent, they sign him, but we'll see. I think maybe they save and spend on Correa when he opts out of his deal. But the other pieces that could be moved is JD Martinez, and where do you think he can end up?
So I was originally thinking about JD to the Blue Jays, but you put a note in there, and I think you're right. They might be a little too right-handed dependent, but it's just going to be one of those teams that just wants to add one more reliable bat. Could be the White Sox too. We've seen them; they do not have depth. So whenever one of their guys goes out, we've seen Eloy go out, we've seen Moncada go out. Their lineup really struggles, and I don't think they really want to be starting Gavin Sheets every day. We saw him drop that fly ball out and right, and the announcer used some interesting language to describe his displeasure at Gavin Sheets dropping it. But I think there's going to be a lot of teams out there that could use him. You put the Giants down. It's definitely a possibility. They've got Jock at DH, though, for a lot of games right now. Darren Ruff, too. They could switch Belton at DH, too. So I don't know if he'd really fit. But a team like the White Sox, some team that could really just use depth or a reliable bat in their lineup. And I think it's going to be teams that are buying in order to give themselves an extra boost. So the White Sox, Blue Jays make sense for me.
And I think JD Martinez, a lot of teams could use that right-handed power bat. I mean, maybe the Rays as well. We saw them make a move for Nelson Cruz a few years ago. It'd be a pretty similar move. The Giants, I mean, a right-handed bat would help them because they've been a team that's been home run dependent, as you know, the last few years. So that would help them. I think there's a lot of teams that could use a lot of these players. And I think if they do sell Kike Hernandez, who's going to be a free agent, a lot of teams can use his versatility and a bench bat down the stretch. So I think it'll be very interesting to see what these Red Sox do come deadline if they don't turn it around.
Yeah, I think Bogarts to the Phillies, too, could be a move if they want to play into that extra bad defense, good hitting, which they've got pretty much at every spot in their lineup so far. So there's a lot of possibilities. Let us know down in the comments if the Red Sox sell, where do you think some of these guys go? I think that would be something interesting. But, the Red Sox so far have been very disappointing. I'd argue most disappointing team in the league, and I don't think many people would disagree. If you thought through 31 games they'd be at the bottom of the AL East, even below the Orioles, pretty sure you'd be lying. So it's unfortunate. But then again, they were a playoff team last year and a damn good one at that. So I think they turn it around. It's just a matter of, can they turn it around enough to get themselves in the playoffs, and not only in the playoffs, to be able to compete with even some of the behemoths in their division, in the Blue Jays and the Yankees and the Rays.
Yeah, it'll be tough to win in that AL East because, I mean, Yankees are running it right now. We thought the Blue Jays would, and Blue Jays, I mean, they've been playing well, but not what we think they can do. So it'll be interesting seeing the AL East going forward. But since we didn't do quick hitters this week for this week's episode, there was a lot of things we missed because we're moving out from school, coming back. So episode's not on the normal Tuesday, but we're going to end today's episode with the best thing we saw this week. And mine was Josh Naylor's performance in the ninth and extras the other day. He had 8 RBIs. I think all of them came in the ninth inning or later. He had the grand slam to tie it in the ninth after, I think it was a 6-run inning to tie the game. And he comes around the bases. He's kind of like, he's got a swagger about him, but he's not doing much. And then he steps on a home plate and he starts shushing the crowd. So we're like, okay. And he gets all excited in the dugout. And then when he hits the 3-run home run in the 11th, he was quite excited, to say the least. I can't repeat what he was saying, but he wanted that smoke, let's just say. He came around first base. He was pumping his fist. He was so excited. He slams on home plate. He gets in the dugout. He chucks his helmet against the bat rack, and you see Clase up. It's like it's just trying not to get hit, get out of the way of Naylor's rampage. But one thing also before that game, he's quickly becoming a fan favorite. He was signing autographs before the game. He signed this fan's ball, and he has the fans sign his glove for the game, which I thought was cool. So a lot of the Cleveland Guardians fans are liking Josh Naylor and what he can do and the power and spark he can provide for this team.
Well, yeah, I think you got to like a guy if after he goes 8 RBIs, takes Liam Hendricks deep for a grand slam.
Hard not to like that.
What's going on with Liam Hendricks, too? This is kind of the second or third time we've seen him really blow a game in the ninth inning, too. So that's one of the reasons why the White Sox have been struggling. But yeah, Josh Naylor, absolutely incredible performance. The best thing I saw this week, Ronald Acuna Jr. has his first home run back. And not only did he hit his first home run back, it might be one of the weirdest and coolest home runs we've ever seen on a baseball field. He swings so far out of his shoes that he falls on his face, absolutely eats the dirt, gets up, starts to run, and realizes he's hit a home run. It was the coolest thing I've ever seen. Like, I don't know how you can do that. That takes some otherworldly type of power to be able to fall over and put one in the stands. It was awesome. I think everyone on the internet was just loving it, and I think everyone was just in disbelief. You mentioned that Ronald Acuna had that kind of just excuse me power, and it really showed there. He's able to hit a home run as he falls on his face. And
it wasn't just any home run. He hit that ball 450 feet.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous. And you mentioned I mentioned his power, and it's just ridiculous, and he's so exciting. And we saw the home run the other day, and he hit the silencer, the LeBron celebration as well. So he's got that exciting nature about him that's going to follow him on the field wherever he goes, out in the field, at the plate. So he's so fun to watch, and to get his first home run, that was awesome, and I love it for my fantasy team.
Yeah, I don't. We are so blessed to see all these talented players in the majors. We've got, Acuna, we're going to get Tatis back. We've just seen Trout and Ohtani on the same team. They're finally going to hopefully make it to the playoffs. They're going to compete for the division crown. It's exciting to see these players be on winning teams, have that energy, and I think that baseball fans should just be really grateful for the pure talent that we get to see on a baseball field day in, day out.
Yeah, it's a great time to be a baseball fan. The energy showing, it's a lot more fun to watch. I mean, this is the first season in a while, a little bit last season, first season in a while where I just turn on a random game just because there's guys playing that I want to watch play. So, I mean, baseball's a lot of fun right now, and we're so blessed to be seeing this in front of our eyes.
Yeah, and I think you guys are so blessed to finally see us in person. We're super excited to be able to bring you guys the episode in person for the first time. This is the first in-person podcast that I've done, and for NFL show we hadn't gone this far, so it's super cool to be able to build a studio and bring you guys content from it all summer long. We've got TikToks we're going to send out to you guys from here. We've got a bunch of little things that we're planning, so we're super excited. Stick around, drop us a subscribe, leave a like, and leave a comment letting us know what you guys thought of the episode, some of the stuff we talked about with Detmers, the Angels, the Red Sox. What was your best thing you saw this week? But then also let us know what kind of stuff you want to see from us this summer, because we're totally open to suggestions. We've got a lot of time on our hands and really want to hear what you guys want to see. So that's kind of all we've got for you guys today. If you're on Apple Podcast or Spotify also, and you weren't able to see the studio, maybe hop over to YouTube or maybe I'll do a video podcast on Spotify. We'll see. But either way, please consider following the show and leaving a 5-star review for all the hard work that's gone into it and all the stuff we've got coming this summer. But that's all we got for you guys today. Follow our socials and
see my journey to teach myself how to hit left-handed. That's on TikTok.
Yeah, I like the second one. It actually looked like you were hitting left-handed. That was good.
I had to flip the camera, but I'm hitting bombs. Let's just say that.
I think next time you need more like teaching content, because right now you're just kind of swinging. I feel like you should like look up stuff about how to actually be a switch hitter and then show us that journey as an impartial fan. Maybe. But yeah, we got a little sidetracked there. But thank you guys for listening. We've been the Double Play Podcast, and we will see you guys next time.